Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole, and welcome to the podcast. We'll be sharing wisdom and encouragement from my mom, a woman who has created a 36-year marriage full of joy and love, and raised 3 children to adulthood that love her and love each other. We'll be talking about how to be a great mom, how to be a great wife, and how to love your life in the process. I see a lot the dynamic of dad pushing kids to adventure, and I think a lot about how dad was always the one kind of painting the future vision for me. I just remember him saying a lot of like, you're going to be a CEO, you're going to make $1 million, like you're amazing, like kind of casting this future vision. And so I think that's kind of oftentimes the dad's role is to kind of push their kids into that adventure. And I see a lot of women, not you, because I think you really mitigated that, but I've heard you talk about this before of like being a little bit concerned and worried and more protective. And like when you see that push of, let's go dirt biking, let's go ATVing, let's go do all this kind of crazy stuff, balancing that against the safety. And I see a lot of women being too, like pulling their man back instead of trusting them to let their kid be a kid or, do a new adventure. So I think how do you balance between kind of the dad's role and then the mom's role? Because they do bring different things to the table.
Well, the way I looked at it was that God gave you 2 people, right? And both of us had positive qualities. And I looked at his positive qualities and I was like, you're an amazing man, amazing enough that I married you. So therefore you have a lot of wisdom that I need to respect. I just trusted my husband to know that he had your best interest at heart, and how important it was for you to have a relationship with him. Because a daddy and a daughter to me were precious, just like a mommy and a son, and a mommy and a daughter, and a son and a dad. The relationships to me were very important to allow those to grow. And so he was yours too. You were his, just like you're mine. And I wanted him to teach you, and I loved him and trusted him enough to allow to just be safe in that moment that, he's going to have the best for you. And you need that time with him. And I've really tried to do my best to cultivate your relationship with him, because I know the type of man that your dad is the type of man you're going to seek to marry.
Yeah, he's
God
awesome.
blesses you with that. And just how much he loved you, and watching your relationship with him, and where he would take his hand and put your hand in his hand, and just the awesome times of just the 2 of you laughing and giggling and going and do silly things. And, he used to paint his face or whatever, it's just adorable to just watch the interaction between the 2 of you. And I just took a lot of joy from that.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah,
He's so
he
cute.
is awesome.
Did you find though that you had to consciously make that decision, or did that just come naturally because he was so awesome? Because I do hear often that it's, maybe like a initial, 'cause being a mother is such a strong thing that's like in your body.
It is. It changed.
So you had to be like, hey, no, I don't need to be worried about this. Like, did you feel like you had to do that, or was it just he is the best?
I don't know if it's pride, but you always feel like you can do the best. Because
Interesting.
obviously you were grown in my body,
Yep.
and you came out of my body. I must know you. So just stepping back and realizing that I didn't want to raise you alone, that you were very, very, I wanted you to have that relationship with your dad, because I had that relationship with my dad. I knew how important and trusting and caring and just unquestionable love there is in that relationship. And I wanted to foster that for you.
It's easy.
And I knew it would come back to me tenfold, because you are the person you are because of him. And I revel in that. So I love
that. How did you know he was going to be a good dad? Because he is just the best dad. But how did you know that when you married him?
I gave it to God. I gave it to God to bring me the right person. I looked at his strengths and his weaknesses. I tried to help him with his weaknesses as he's did with me in my weaknesses. and tried just to make the two become one and to make each other a better person, because that would only benefit each other. Right?
So he wasn't the same way you weren't perfect at marriage. You guys worked on it together and allowed each other to be human. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you why. For me, it was because you have to be totally unselfish to become married to somebody, right? Because you always have,
because you can be selfish and get married, but to do it well,
right? To have a loving marriage that is going to last in this world, I believe you have to be very unselfish. And I learned a long time ago from Dr. Laura Schlesinger that you wake up every morning and you say, what can I do to make my husband happy today? Happy he's married to me. And I took that to heart. And I was thankful I learned that from early in our marriage. But yes, of course there were struggles, because I'm a strong-willed person and he is a very strong-willed person. And then I was beating my head against the wall and I'm like, wait a second, he wants the best for me. I want the best for us. Why am I pushing against this? Why don't we just love each other?
Why don't you just trust him
and grow? And so I became his greatest cheerleader.
Yeah.
And he became my greatest cheerleader.
Yeah. You guys are a really good team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm blessed with that.
But you also have worked to be a good team. It's not, that stuff doesn't just come naturally.
No, and there's tons of challenges in marriage. But at the end of the day, I want to come home to him. Yeah. And I want him to be happy. He's coming home to me.
He is. He's so happy when you come home. It's so cute. He's like, oh, Carol's here. Like runs downstairs, carries up your bags. Like it's just, it's 36 years. And this man still just loves the heck out of her. So.
Yeah. And he's told me I'm beautiful every day.
Yeah.
Even though many days raising 3 kids, I was not beautiful to myself, but he always told me I was. And I believed it.
Yeah. He's a good man. But you also reinforced that goodness too. So you didn't, I think sometimes people have a tendency to not appreciate that, but I think you always do a really good job appreciating him too.
Yes, so. I hope I do.
So that's how you kind of, it's interesting because you didn't list specific qualities that you saw. He was patient, he was, he loved kids. Like you didn't necessarily list specific qualities of what. So were there any specific qualities that you saw in him that you said, this man's going to be a good husband and a good dad? Or was it really more you just knew whose he was? Like you knew he was a Christian and you saw that in him. And so you knew you could work on it. Like what were some of the things that you looked for?
Yeah, there are plenty of people who say they're Christian and don't act that way.
That's true.
So I really assessed him and I waited and had adventures with him. There was a book of questions. I remember we read in a car ride because we didn't have a lot of money. And so we just had this book of questions and we would read questions to each other. And everyone I read to him, he came back and his answer was so deep in love with me that I was like, wow, this man is amazing. And your fiance gets in a car wreck and her legs don't work anymore. And now she's paralyzed. Would you marry? And he goes, absolutely. I would still marry you. I'm marrying you for you, not your legs. And I was like, wow, what this amazing man. And so as far as qualities, absolutely. I had a list and he had a list. And the list is, respect, trust, faithfulness, kindness, joy. Can we laugh together? Can we, be goofy? And, what do we want out of life? We discussed very much the qualities we wanted out of being parents and how we wanted to raise children. And the big one you have to discuss is obviously discipline. Some people hit, some people smack, some people, will smack a hand or smack a face or whatever. And I didn't want that. I was not raised like that. And I didn't want that. I didn't know if I could stop if I started. So I said, I do not want hitting. And he was hit, he was disciplined that way. And so for him, he had to come over to my side to understand that if we as adults have to hit our child to try to get them to behave the way we want, what does that say about us? You got a 4-year-old that's running out into the street. Is smacking them going to make them, or is sitting them back down and then, having them stand next to a truck and where they see that the truck can't see them or the car can't see them because they're too little. So you can't run into the road because they cannot stop, and explaining in that. And so luckily we worked it out enough that before we even, got pregnant, we knew exactly what kind of parents we wanted to be.
Yeah, that's awesome.